Hello and welcome to this new edition of Echo Africa, your weekly environment magazine co-produced in Germany, Nigeria and Uganda. I am Chris Elams and I'm looking forward to presenting today's show with my wonderful colleague in Kampala.
Hi there, Chris, and nice to see you again. I am Sandra Twinovdio and a big hello to all our viewers out there. Thank you for joining us again. In the next half hour, we'll be showing you some amazing environmental ideas from Europe and Africa. Here is what is coming up shortly. In Kenya, tourists may be staying away, but the turtles aren't. How planting trees can be fun as well as an eco-friendly mission. And would you wear a helmet made out of fungus? We've reported a lot about electric cars and their reduced impact on the environment. It is certainly far better to drive electric than the fossil fuel powered vehicles. But what happens to the electric batteries once they're used up? Simply throwing them away isn't a sustainable option. Now, a German company has found a way of giving the batteries a second lease of life, and some of which will be used by projects in Africa. Take a look.
Driving a three-wheeled electric Humba is a major step towards independence for these women in Wanza in Zimbabwe. It allows them to take their vegetables to the market on their own. The startup Mobility for Africa rents out the mini electric transporters for a reasonable price.
Our Humba is environmentally friendly. It doesn't pollute the air. No noise pollution as it moves swiftly, as it doesn't have those exhaust and those fossil fuel engines.
At the moment, the Humbas are outfitted with standard lithium-ion batteries, which are often discarded when they run out of power. The same holds true for those in the around 4 million electric vehicles worldwide.
We are all very happy that e-mobility is finally taking off. But if you're not careful, we generate the next problem. In a couple of years from now, millions of these used batteries will come on the market with no home. We said, can we find a way to give these batteries a second life?
It's at that point that two startups came together, Zimbabwe's Mobility for Africa and Batteries in Berlin. Its founder, Rainer Hönig, has years of experience in the automobile and airline industries. He wants to see discharged batteries returned to service for another 7 to 10 years, wherever power supplies are patchy.
These batteries, when they come to us, they have around 70% of their initial storage capacity, so they are way too valuable to throw them away. We actually can, out of this battery pack, where we have 48 modules, can build 6 of our battery packs.
Each of an e-car's 48 battery modules is tested for capacity, and then 6 are bundled together to create a battery brand battery pack. The modules may not all be in the same condition, but the Berlin-based company has come up with the technology for ironing out the differences.
These electronics controls the safety of the battery pack, and it makes sure that we can handle slight differences in aging and in quality of the modules.
It's taken 2 years to develop Battery's blue and gray casing. The new battery packs are watertight and dustproof. End users simply have to remove the old power pack and plug in the new one, which can be charged with solar-generated energy. The Humba is ready to roll on Zimbabwe's roads. To boost the women's security and prevent theft, the recycled packs are fitted with smart technology. That allows Mobility for Africa to track them anywhere, and Battery gets real-time data on the state of their power packs as well.
We can see in Berlin what the battery in Zimbabwe does. So we can manage it, we can alert the customer, say now it needs a bit of repair or maintenance. So we build more than a battery, we build an ecosystem around the battery to optimize its usage and make it as easy for the customer as possible.
The goal is to go into mass production and to take back used packs to prevent them from landing in an electronic waste dump in Africa or ensure they are properly recycled.
We work with partners recycling specialists, logistics specialists. We have regional operational centers to make sure we can guarantee that these batteries are brought back.
It's hoped the experiences gained in Zimbabwe will transfer to other economically weaker regions in Africa, Asia, and Latin America.
The Hamba is one use case, but the main other use case is replacing small-scale generators as backup power for weak grids or as primary power for rural areas where there is no grid, so the classic off-grid situation.
The battery packs are getting their first road tests in Zimbabwe. Hamba driving lessons are booked out, and Mobility for Africa plans to expand.
It would be very useful to give the service providers in this area access to Hamba because, for example, the police needed to arrive at crime scenes and to attend to domestic violence issues on time. Our target was to have 100 operational tricycles in this area.
After launching in Zimbabwe, Battery wants to go global. Its goal is to have 300,000 units by 2030.
Reusing items like batteries is one thing, but wouldn't it be even better if there were more eco-friendly projects and processes out there in the first place? In Berlin, a team of young biotechnologists have come up with some really interesting stuff.
At first glance, the helmet that biotechnologist Bastian Schubert is wearing might look normal, but he is hoping that it could spearhead a green revolution. The entire interior of this bike helmet consists of fungus mycelium and agricultural waste. Therefore, it's extremely sustainable and a very good alternative to the plastic interior of conventional helmets. A helmet made out of fungi might sound bizarre, but for Bastian Schubert and his two colleagues it makes perfect sense. Back at the lab in the Technical University in Berlin, all they need to do is to take the cells of the tinder fungus and mix them into a granular culture. This is then added to hemp waste, a perfect snack for the fungus. Within some 10 days, its roots, the mycelia, solidify the contents of the bag.
Dass es halt ein schallabsorbierendes Material ist.
It's a shock-absorbing material that can compete with petroleum-based materials in many ways. That was our main motivation. There are so many products, materials that end up in the trash can, such as EPS foam, expanded polystyrene. That's the material that we are replacing in this helmet. Polystyrene makes up 30% of plastic waste in landfills worldwide. That's a lot.
Kunststoffabfalls auf einer Müllhalde aus, was schon ein sehr beträchtlicher Teil ist.
First tests have shown that the helmet can even outperform conventional ones in safety terms. The team still needs to come up with a sustainable outer shell and to ensure that the product is long-lasting. Once they've solved those problems, they want to go into business. Almost 1 in 4 cyclists in Germany wear a helmet. Bertram Schmidt, another biotechnologist at the Technical University of Berlin, discovered the novel uses for fungi during a citizen science project that he led. These fascinating organisms are neither animal nor plant. They come in many shapes and sizes. They love rainy days like this one, and they have lived on this planet for millions of years. A fungus may well be the biggest living organism on Earth. When they stick their heads out, that's not even the tip of the iceberg. Only a very small part. You don't see the main body. It penetrates the entire forest floor. Everything here is creating a communication network with other organisms that is constantly in operation. The organisms don't always like each other. There is fierce competition. Generally, this contest for nutrients and territory completely passes us by, except when it's obvious for all to see, as on this tree trunk that's covered with a tinder fungus. For trees, this means a slow end. There are also sulfur tufts feeding on the organic material here. The mycelia of these two species meet inside the trunk. It would be interesting to see how they interact with each other. They're competitors after all. Both want to decompose wood. Their ability to break down organic material is what gives them the energy to grow other materials. Bertram Schmidt and his team discovered that the local tinder fungus works best for their big plants, for the fungus composite. After the initial growth phase, it can be broken up and regrown in molds to create different forms and sizes. I could certainly imagine that you could build whole walls from fungi and the supporting frames from other components like wood. If you want it to remain recyclable, I can certainly imagine that you could build a large house with it. Although the lightweight fungi bricks are not load-bearing, they could replace many other building materials. Once they're dried and the growth of the mycelium is halted, the bricks could replace polystyrene, for example, providing a much greener form of insulation. This composite is also very flexible. Bertram Schmidt and his colleagues are planning to scale up their work, working together with architects and engineers to see where the material can still be optimized.
We
want to make a contribution towards solving global problems. Where do we get our resources from? How can we switch to a circular economy? And how can we recycle used products? And I think that fungi material covers all those bases. Grown in a controlled environment, fungi could just be the stuff to help build the houses of the future.
We are all having a tough time during this pandemic, but for nature it has actually brought some bit of relief. In many countries, including Kenya, tourism has declined sharply.
Indeed it has, Sandra. Usually the beaches there are teeming with tourists, but now turtles have the sand almost to themselves and they've come to nest. That's prompted locals to pitch in to protect the hatchlings.
Making a break for the ocean. A newly hatched green sea turtle leaves its nest on Tiwi Beach. Its journey monitored by volunteers from a local organization, the Tiwi Turtle Police on Kenya's south coast. Soleil Makambe is one of them. The initiative is dedicated to protecting the green sea turtle, which is on the red list of endangered species. He's happy that numbers are rebounding. This is great. People used to eat them. A few months ago, a female turtle went ashore near here and laid eggs. Now, as the animals are hatching, Soleil Makambe is worried because they're more sluggish than usual. And on their way into the sea, they face many dangers: crabs, seagulls, beach dogs, but also humans. Here, people pose the biggest threat to the turtles because they used to eat them. But we got mobilized here in Tiwi, and turtles and turtle eggs are no longer being eaten. But I would say the biggest danger to turtles still comes from humans. The Tiwi Turtle Police was founded by the owner of a small beach hotel. In cooperation with the Kenya Wildlife Service and the local fishing community, they patrol some 12 kilometers off coastline, monitor nests, and pick up plastic waste. Although the members are all volunteers, the organization has been helping them during the pandemic. The turtle program is helping us and we're getting some money. When we are on duty, even if we go out to sea for 2 days, we know that we'll receive some income later. We can then at least use that to take care of our children. Thanks to the patrol, the tiny reptiles have a greater chance of survival, and more are hatching than before. The members of the Tiwi Turtle Police receive training in turtle ecology and pass on their knowledge to the community. I've seen what the project has achieved. Since 2019, we have not heard of any reports of anyone consuming turtles or anyone killing or injuring turtles. So the number of turtles that are dying has gone down, and people have begun to understand them, even out of the water. Only a few meters separate the baby turtles from the south. Those who make it will travel thousands of kilometers across the oceans, and the females are likely to return in a few years to lay eggs of their own.
It's off to Russia now, which has the largest area of natural forest in the world, but increasingly, those woodlands are being destroyed by wildfires and deforestation. In our next report, we'll introduce you to a woman who took it upon herself to launch a campaign to replant trees, and she's inspiring many others to do the same.
What looks like random bunches of greenery are in fact pine tree saplings, thousands of them, all ready for planting. Mariana Munteanu explains how it's done.
It's very simple. You place the sapling in the hole, then fill that with earth, and check that the sapling's firmly bedded in. Check once more that it can't be pulled out. Yep, great.
8,000 saplings are due to be planted today, here on the outskirts of Moscow. Mariana Munteanu asked for help online, and an army of volunteers has responded. She regularly invites members of the public to help her. Russia's forests have taken quite a beating in recent years. Huge areas have been devastated by wildfires. Pests like bark beetles pose a further challenge. Russia has more forest than any other country. Trees cover nearly half of this vast land.
I've been doing this since 2010. There were terrible wildfires back then, throughout the whole of Russia. I saw a picture of huge, well-established trees being blown across the fields by the wind. They were breaking off like matchsticks.
Mariana Munteanu studied economics and initially worked in finance, but she quit her job to devote all her attention to reforestation.
You can change the world, one small step at a time, and people will pull together for a good cause.
Everybody here wants to help people become more aware of nature again, and to encourage them to do their bit to protect the environment.
I want our planet to be as intact as possible, so that we have healthy air to breathe and leave our children and grandchildren an environment in which they can live well. Our environment is sick. I don't want to inflict further injuries on the natural world.
7 years ago, Mariana Munteanu moved to Moscow to build up her own environmental organization. But she's still not a lover of the city. Her childhood in the countryside very much shaped who she is.
I love nature. I love the forest. As a child, I always spent the summers with my grandmother in the village. That's her house, right next to the forest. We would go out several times a week picking berries or mushrooms.
Back in her Moscow apartment, she's able to relax after all the hard work, but she never loses sight of her goal.
This is my mission in life. I want to achieve great things for the benefit of society, of the planet, and nature. Good afternoon. My name is Mariana Munteanu, and I'm president of the Russian Climate Fund.
Her work has long since expanded beyond planting trees. Together with other environmental activists, she puts out her own podcast in a bid to get the message out to more people. She's also developed a mobile game app called Plant the Forest. The aim is to promote interest in the well-being of trees. Income from the app goes to plant new saplings.
The gamer has to collect points, which then allow him to plant trees. The idea is to inspire users so that they stop being indifferent towards our trees, and so that they want to help with reforestation.
Back to the forest on the outskirts of Moscow. It's time for lunch. In the past 10 years, Mariana Munteanu and her helpers have planted more than 1 million trees. That's the equivalent of around 1,300 soccer fields. A large number of volunteers of all ages have helped to make it possible. Last year, she was selected by the United Nations for the Young Champion of the Earth Award. Right nearby, she shows us some other young trees from her project that have had a chance to get established.
This tree was planted just 7 years ago, and as you can see, it's already bigger than me.
Soon, this area should once again be a strong, healthy forest, hopefully strong enough to withstand all the challenges of the future.
Our next report is also about wooded areas, but this time in the western part of Cameroon, in Central Africa. Here, you'll find the Ebo Forest, which has also been threatened by deforestation.
That is right, Chris. After a lot of protests both in and outside the country, the government has put its logging plans on hold. But for how long? The Ebo Forest is home to quite a few species that aren't found anywhere else.
This huge forest holds special significance for the local community. Some 40 villages line the edge of the wood. Deka Ngile grew up in one of them and is committed to preserving this natural habitat.
In the forest area, where the gorillas, chimpanzees, and elephants are, our ancestors lie buried. We only came here because of the war during the struggle for independence. We have our secret spots and places for rituals in the forest. When there's an issue in the community, we go there to pray. So if the trees are removed without our consent, that's not good.
The Ebo Forest is about a 6-hour drive from Cameroon's most populous city, Douala. The vast amount of wood here has drawn the attention of logging companies. Valuable tropical woods make it especially attractive. Last year, part of the forest was due to be cut down, but after protests by local residents and many organizations, Cameroon's President Paul Biya suspended the plans. Deka Ngile now lives in Douala but meets regularly with the village elders. Today he is visiting Belema Emmanuel. The village elders are furious the government never consulted them about the forest.
We're the keepers of the forest, and we are against the logging. The people in Yaoundé and Douala might decide to take it, but we are not happy at all.
The forest is not only prized by local residents, it also has huge ecological significance. Biologist Ekwoga Abwe has been studying the Ebo Forest for more than 15 years. He says the rich biodiversity here is unique. Camera traps reveal footage of rare primates, including a species of gorilla only found here. Funding for research even comes from the U.S.
All of this makes Ebo really diverse in terms of primates. But we also have forest elephants, which makes it, like really an outstanding place. We have a whole wide range of amphibians.
But biodiversity is not the only factor that gives this forest global significance.
This forest extends for more than 1,000 kilometers square. It is made up of sub-montane to lowland topography, which means it has all these vegetation classes. And it's really important in terms of the fact that this forest sinks like 35 million tons of carbon, which is really important globally.
Environmental organization Greenpeace is seeking to exert pressure on the Cameroon government. They say suspending plans to destroy part of the forest is not enough.
We continue to call on to the Cameroon government and especially to the President of the Republic to take the necessary action to cancel that that project, and not just to suspend the decree, but to cancel the decree, the decision.
We contacted Cameroon's Ministry for Forestry and Wildlife, but they were unable to grant us an interview. Environmentalists and locals want Ebo Forest to be declared a national park. That would mean long-term protection, not only for wildlife and places of spiritual significance, but also for the entire valuable rainforest.
That's it for today. We hope you found today's stories inspiring. If you're doing something to protect the environment, we'd love to hear about it. You can get in touch with us through our social media channels. I am Chris Elems, signing off from Lagos, Nigeria.
Thank you, Chris. Do join us again for another edition of Eco Africa next week. From me, Sandra Twinobio in Kampala, Uganda, it is a goodbye and take care.